What's up, Call of Duty fans? Welcome back. Good to see you. IHOLDSHIFT. It's a pleasure. And for all of you guys who've been going into the comments lately and telling me how much you like my videos, I really do appreciate it. You guys absolutely kick ass. If you're looking to join and kind of get in more conversation about CWL things, please make sure you go down to the description and join my Discord channel. I'd love to have you guys over watching through CWL. We talk about things like betting as well as what the games are kind of providing for us for the day. Speaking of, let's talk about day 3. That's the recap we have up. UYU would go up against Midnight first, and if you remember back to yesterday, I predicted this one going a 3-2 for Midnight, but for no good reason besides who knew what to expect for this set. Midnight having found a pretty heavy loss to GenG, but didn't look terrible. UYU getting beat up by FaZe Clan and only finding one map against Evil Geniuses. So taking a look at this one, it started off okay for UYU. Parzelian looked much better with the KN on frequency hardpoint, but Parasite looked a lot better than him. Royalty again was getting outmatched up front, which seemed to be the case for most of the day. Methods and Mayhem did what they could, but it just wasn't quite enough. And Search and Destroy, it didn't really get any better from there. So much disrespect from Midnight, literally running all over UYU early. Blast hits this nutty double kill, and well past that, Midnight just looked absolutely unstoppable. They would go up to a very quick 2-0. But here comes UYU. After a very rough first round of the control on Seaside, Royalty started off 0-6. Fortunately, Methods, Parzelian, actually Zaptius played their hearts out and outplayed Midnight just on their own whims. 10-18 was Royalty. I hate to call individuals out, but yikes. 21-15 was Zaptius, 24-14 with Methods, and 28-17 was Parzelian. Incredible play from that trio. The Zaptius edition, I say, is probably one of the better editions they've had. Considering that he's only played with Project 18 in the Pro League qualifier, Zaptius is looking like he can definitely hang in the Pro League. We would then stay on Seaside but go to Hardpoint, and Royalty would all of a sudden show up. My dude goes 12-0 off the first couple of hard points. Absolutely nutty. And then a little bit later on in this match, it would continue to go his way as UYU was starting to steamroll this one a bit. But just to add a little bit of insult to injury, Royalty would also hit a 5-man grab slam. The only other player to do that so far this year has been Slacked. Where the hell was this Royalty earlier in the day? I have no idea, but incredible plays from him to put it to a map number 5. And hate to say it, but Parzelian, he hadn't looked very great with the sniper rifle on Search and Destroy throughout the entirety of the week. He wouldn't look very great here as well. And I won't say it's fully costing, but when Parasite's hitting snipes, and you're not getting any from Parzelian, well, that's GG. So that would go 6-3, 6-1 for both of the searches. Midnight looking better there after the 250-164 opening on the hard point. The control was a little wonky, but again, the trio of UYU was looking really solid there, and that's what you love to see. Switching back over, though, we'll go over to FaZe and OpTic. This was what a lot of eyes were on, as, again, OpTic does bring a lot of viewership. And for those of you guys who were critiquing me saying they only bring 5 to 10K, I was essentially saying that's about what they bring on a regular stream day. Today was a little bit higher because they were playing up against FaZe Clan for what could potentially be the last 2 times that these two orgs face up against each other. Big drama there. It would start on Seaside Hardpoint, the start of everything drama in Call of Duty. It was a big start for OpTic because they had about a 130-point lead. FaZe would come back hard, though, on the second full rotations and retake that lead at a score of 195-163. OpTic would then string 2 hills together to go to 247, but they would get held for about 50 full seconds between the end of the Tomb Courtyard Hill and the beginning of the Fountain. They couldn't quite break it. Frequency Search and Destroy was OpTic all of the way. Karma would go 12-0 throughout. Arsenal in the control, back and forth for all the offenses. It came down to a 4v5, and Scraps would actually clutch things out with a War Machine to make it 3-1. So FaZe Clan would bounce back and make this a 2-1 set in their favor. Arsenal Hardpoint would be up next, a 41-0 start for OpTic. It would move to a 120-point lead after the first rotations, and FaZe could never quite recover. And then the last Search and Destroy was Hacienda, and it just seemed like FaZe was in the running throughout a lot of this set, except for when weird things were thrown their way from OpTic, especially in the Hacienda. When it was a very straightforward, everyone's going A, everyone's going B, FaZe was able to do a pretty decent job of fighting back. It was when OpTic pushed all the way through the middle, got into the office area when FaZe was on defense that they really couldn't respond to. OpTic would survive. You see the scores as they pop up there. A very close set. This FaZe team is definitely impressed, but their search and destroy woes is why I kind of have them a little bit of Monka-S. Going on forward to Reciprocity and GenG, another one that ended up being a very solid game for reasons that I really could not tell you. It was double sogs really for GenG that was just too good for Reciprocity to start things off on the first hard point. Dylan and Zed did what they could, but there was no support whatsoever from the Maddox line behind them. Tommy ended up going negative. Shawnee could only get one kill in the first rotations on frequency hard point, and he got a lot of the criticism, but he didn't finish too much further below in the kill death department than Tommy did. And well, that's not what you want to see. Search and destroy was a very back and forth all the way to round 11 where Reciprocity would close things out. The control dominated by GenG. We would go to the next hard point where honestly there were a number of moments where I thought GenG would close things out, but Reciprocity just staying too strong throughout would eke it out. So to round 5 we go, and there were nutty plays by both teams. Havoc has this dirty 2-kill clutch where he tosses in the long distance concussion to play the back player, and while he 1v1s up front, he retrains his aim on the last one. Big plays, but Tommy would keep the sniper in hand throughout a lot of this game. He found himself a 3-piece of snipes in the middle portion of the set, and Reciprocity on the back end of that would actually pull out 3 rounds straight, and Reciprocity would surprise just about everybody by taking this one not only to 5, but by beating GenG. This one very well should have gone 3-1, but a couple of miscues from GenG, not only in the first search and destroy, but also in the second hard point, let Reciprocity come right back in. Then we'd finish the day off with Evil Geniuses and Luminosity, and I don't know what the heck is going on with this Luminosity team. I've said these words before. This is not a new sentence in the English dictionary when we're talking about the CWL. You think back to what they looked like in the first bit of the Pro League, and a lot of question marks were coming out. Even more so now, I would say. Evil Geniuses, they looked incredible. In the first hard point, it was 250 to 63. Attach would pull out a War Machine by hill number 3. Phantoms pulled up an 11-2 start, and it was a 120-point lead for Evil Geniuses. They wouldn't look back in any instance of this set, with the exception of the control, where Luminosity would just barely be able to eke out a round 5 win. But beyond that, it was all Evil Geniuses. Luminosity looked absolutely atrocious. Let's talk about tomorrow, as we're already getting a little long-winded in this video. We'll go by pretty quickly. FaZe and Reciprocity. How do you predict this one, you might ask? You take a look at FaZe Clan. Lately, they've been doing very well in the hard point, and they've been doing very well in the control. They've been all over the place in the search and destroy. So for this one, I see this going in favor of Reciprocity for the searches, because they've looked a lot cleaner since their kind of woes from London, but they have not looked particularly great in the hard point or the control, really, except for when they play it on Arsenal. So for me, I'm thinking this one goes to FaZe at a 3-1 scoreline. I've got Reciprocity winning the search and destroy, both hard points going to FaZe, and the control going to FaZe. We'll switch on forward to Evil Geniuses going up against GenG, and this could be a very interesting set. We saw some pretty big flaws from GenG here today against Reciprocity, but again, it's only coming in the search and destroy, a map mode combination that Evil Geniuses has been pretty decent at, but Evil Geniuses have been pretty atrocious in the control. They have played better this week, but that was up against UIU and Luminosity, who they still lost to. So I wouldn't feel very confident that Evil Geniuses is at the level to take down GenG, but I wouldn't have said that about Reciprocity against GenG either. I still have this one going a 3-0 for GenG. I don't think they can be beat right now when it comes to hardpoint. Obviously, with the exception of Reciprocity, where they kind of threw away a couple opportunities where they should have closed that game out. Their search and destroy is all over the place, but I think they'll be able to take the first set versus Evil Geniuses, who have again been okay. And then control, this has been the bread and butter really of GenG over the last couple of weeks. So I would not wager against GenG on this one. Going forward to LG and Midnight, flip a frickin' coin. How do you predict this game? I personally have no idea how to predict this one, with the exception of the fact that Luminosity has looked like absolute trash. Midnight has looked much better, but there's always that wild card where Luminosity just shows up out of nowhere and plays like an all-star championship team, and Midnight can sometimes show up and be absolutely cold. I still have this one going in favor of what the underdog is in the bets right now at a 3-1 for Midnight. Simply comes down to the fact that Luminosity has not been playing very well in the hard point, specifically this week, But also, as you take a look back to what they did at London, they were 5-6 in the hard point there, but they had almost a -30 differential in average. So their wins were narrow and their losses were steep, is essentially what that means. They've been just okay in search and destroy, and they've been all over the board when it comes to control. Midnight actually has looked relatively good, at least today versus UIU. They looked relatively good in the search and destroy, and they took GenG to round 11 in the search. The biggest question mark for me on Midnight comes down to, will they be able to play control against this LG team? I don't think it's going to be a very good look for either squad. I've got LG winning the control, but Midnight winning everything else, as LG just doesn't seem to be performing really all that well as a full concentric team. So I've got the search and destroy going to Midnight and both hard points going to Midnight as well. And then we'll finish off the day with OpTic and UIU. Chalk this one up 3-0 for OpTic. I don't know how you could say otherwise. The set versus FaZe showed some very revealing things about OpTic in their respawn specifically, but I think that was mostly due to some inconsistencies and just some random team things that were going on. I wouldn't anticipate them having that kind of a lackluster performance versus a very weak UIU team who will not match up on any level versus this OpTic team. So again, I've got 3-1 FaZe, 3-0 GenG, 3-1 Midnight, and 3-0 OpTic. We'll see how those hold up. My predictions from yesterday weren't bad. I went 3-2 Midnight. We got that one. I had 3-1 OpTic. It went 3-2. And then I had 3-1 GenG. Obviously, that didn't play out. And I had 3-2 with a high upset potential for Evil Geniuses. Obviously, it went 3-1 there. So don't bet on Luminosity. Just stay away from them. That's all I got to say about it. I've been Shift. You've been you. Thanks again for hanging out. Feel free to jump into our Discord. Say hello. Join us for the CWL conversation. Beyond that, make sure you subscribe if you enjoyed this kind of content. You can ring the bell to get notifications on when my videos do pop up on your way out as well. Until next time, hope you keep holding it down. So long.